She is a nationally known Chicago psychic who has a unique way of seeing the future through coffee.
Yes, we love her. She's known as Joanne, the coffee psychic.
You know, I tell people, I sure could be wrong here, but I get such a great sense for the White Sox this year.
The White Sox?
I really do.
Okay.
I really do.
President Obama's going to like that.
Did you see a sock in there, or what did you see?
Yes, I actually did see a sock.
Atheists are great people. Great people. It's God's country. Get those signs down. Get them down. Evil will happen in Corpus Christi. Get them down.
And welcome to Atheist Airwaves on Corpus Christi Community Radio. That's cccomradio.com. I'm Jay Guerrero.
I'm Sara Keefer.
I'm Lumb.
And I'm Christian Ferris.
Atheist Airwaves is Corpus Christi's only radio show for atheists and the secular-minded. We're sponsored by Corpus Christi Atheists and the South Texas Coalition of Reason. Today, you're going to have to forgive us. Some of us are recently getting over some sicknesses.
Most of us are ill.
It's flu season. Everyone get your flu shot.
I tried to get a flu shot, and I couldn't find the place where my wife could get free flu shots, so I didn't.
Aw.
So now I paid for it.
Oh, well, that's good. At least you got it.
You might not have the flu.
I did. I'm certain of that.
In any case, today we're going to be talking about psychics and the predictions that they had in 2013, or, well, there were predictions, but yeah. Acupuncture is exposed as pseudoscience, and atheists saved the day after some Christians turned away a needy family. And, of course, more stuff, too. But the intro audio that we just listened to, the coffee psychic, oh my dad. Did she say that she saw a sock in her coffee?
Yes, she saw a sock in her coffee. This is like, we were talking about Mormons and how they just seem crazier because you're not used to them. This woman really took, something ridiculous, which is psychics to begin with, but then said, let me add a whole level of crazy on top of that.
My
Well,
coffee.
but then there's like the people that read tea leaves, so she was just kind of jumping off of that idea.
Sure. And, I'm more of a coffee person than a tea person anyway. So.
Coffee's probably more accurate.
My question is, this was on, what, Good Morning America?
It's a local NBC affiliate, their morning show in Chicago.
Okay, why are we listening to psychics in our morning news in the first place?
Exactly.
That's a really good point.
I just stumbled across her because I was thinking about we should talk about psychics, and they have her on every year, and they have for years and years and years. So I picked up their episode from last year when they talked to her, and she was talking about how, what a great year the White Sox were going to have. I'm not a sports ball person.
I'm a sports puck person, just like you.
Yeah, me too. Any sports ball fans?
I do like baseball, but I really just like the Phillies. If the Phillies aren't playing, I don't really care.
Do you know how they did?
The Phillies?
Yeah.
Not well.
Okay.
Not well this
You know what? They did better than the White Sox. I know because I looked it up. In 2013, the White Sox were dead last in the Central Division. They were second to last in the American League, and only two teams did worse than they did in all of baseball, and that's Houston and Miami.
Wow. How did the Red Sox do?
I have no idea. I'm not a sports ball guy.
I was going to say, she said she saw a sock, so, I mean.
I'm okay. I'm not going to go any farther with that. I just don't understand why. Well, I do understand the psychology behind it. I mean, you've got people tend to glom on to the hits that psychics make and forget about the misses. One of the things that they talked about in that particular segment from 2012, it was December 27th or so, just 2012. They wanted to talk about some of the hits she had made. She had been on the air in 2011, but they had to go back to 2010
to find something.
Yeah, okay. and even those were kind of a stretch. What were they talking about? They said, she asked one of them, "Do you have a dog?" And they're like, "Nope." And then there's this long pause, and she said, "Oh, but I was thinking about getting one." And she's like, "That's what it is."
Oh. I know a dog.
I know a dog.
I mean, they're so eager to believe and make a connection of some kind, and these people latch onto that and give them information that they think that they're picking up through psychic waves. It's like, no, you just told her something, and now she's going to build her prediction based on that, which she proceeded to do. She said, "Oh, okay, well, the dog, you are going to get a dog, and it's not going to be a big dog. It's not going to be a medium-sized dog. It's going to be a super, super tiny dog." Well, the dog she had, they didn't know what breed it was. She got it, and it's a super big dog. I mean, it just kept growing.
It was tiny at one point.
At one point, right.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
But it was an embryo.
Little puppy zygotes.
There's a phrase for that where I don't remember what it is. Maybe one of you people who
Cold reading,
is that what it's called? Yeah.
where you pick up cues from the person you're talking to and turn that into actionable information to con them with.
Right. And, I think it's in human nature to want to, well, first of all, we all want to know what's going to happen in the future. And secondly, we all want to make connections from the past to the future. So we look to people like psychics or, any of these sort of magical kind of predictor type people and go, well, like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, even if we have to go back 2 years,
Right.
I really want to believe that this can work. So, not all predictions are correct, but hey, here's one or two of them that are correct. And so that's going to prove that this psychic lady does see visions in her coffee.
And did she see anything accurate in her coffee?
Not from 2013, no.
Okay. Did she see anything? I mean, did she see any other
Well,
notably wrong things?
Okay. Actually, I think she actually saw one other correct thing, which was she predicted one of the hosts would go out of the country on vacation, and that actually happened.
Wow.
As if you don't plan them ahead of time.
Right.
Okay. Anyway.
So I think that maybe next week everyone can come up with some predictions for 2014 and see how they pan out.
We should compare.
Well, so the other thing that I
like this idea.
The other thing that I did is I went back and I pulled predictions from all of the major well-known psychics out there who made predictions for 2013. There was only one that I saw that had more than about 5% accuracy rate, and that guy was making really, really stupid predictions like Christina Aguilera is going to lose weight. Really worthless junk like that. So here's a list of just a few that I pulled that, obviously these people do not have magic powers. The first one that I just loved is, finally, a new comprehensive major immigration reform law will be signed into law by the end of summer due to bipartisan support.
Oh, bipartisan support.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did President Obama make that prediction?
Yeah, right. Well, no, although even the Republican Party made that prediction. They said after the election that that's one of the things they had to do, which I think might have something to do with the fact that this psychic came up with this prediction.
Didn't they make that prediction when Bush was in office?
I have no idea.
I think they probably did.
Let's see. Another one said a global UN tax will be enacted this year to help fund disaster relief and poverty. I have yet to get my United Nations tax bill, so I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. Truce in the Middle East.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, that's
That was a ballsy one.
Are these hopes or predictions?
This is psychic wishful thinking.
Yeah.
Prayers.
Congress will deal with gun control. That was, okay.
By not dealing with it.
But I can
Congress will deal with gun control.
But I can understand because they were making this prediction 2 or 3 weeks after Sandy Hook, right after Sandy Hook. So that's a prediction I would have made at that point, not based on mind powers, but just based on how can you have 20 dead first graders and not do something about it.
Yeah.
That's the prediction that all those guys stockpiling guns were making as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, makes sense.
And a lot of terrorist attacks that didn't happen. A fire or an explosion at a subway in New York City kills many. A chemical attack on the United States. And one of them decided to bank on the new Madrid fault, saying that St. Louis and Chicago would be wiped out.
Those are some pretty
That was-
out there
yeah.
predictions, man.
My wife is in St. Louis right now, so I assure you it is still there. But we keep asking these people year after year to make these predictions and come on these stupid shows. I mean, Sylvia Brown was she predicted her own death and was off by 10 years.
It's entertainment. It's not factual anything.
But people aren't taking it as entertainment.
It's
After
not,
we did that show about Sylvia Brown, I went and watched a bunch of clips of her in the Long Island Medium. And the Long Island Medium, she was like reaching on, I think she was on, I forget, maybe it wasn't Montel because that's Sylvia Brown. Anyway, she was on a talk show, and it was like almost painful to watch because she was so off
She was
and
bad.
just so reaching so bad. It was
It goes to show you because, Sylvia Brown's the same way. I mean, she was
Yeah.
not good at what she does. I mean, I hear that John Edwards, the guy who talks to dead people, that he heavily edits his shows to make him look better. But his stuff is actually, I mean, he's a talented guy. He's a talented cold reader.
Yeah.
Some of these guys like Sylvia Browne are just awful. I mean, I don't know how anyone buys it. I mean, even as entertainment. I mean, I've watched, the crossing over with John Edwards or whatever, because it for a few episodes it was entertaining to watch him do it. But Sylvia Browne, I couldn't watch her for 2 seconds.
So do you think these guys are just banking on some kind of charisma and some kind of connection that they're able to forge with these people that they're cold reading, and that's where the skill is?
Well, I think, think about why people go to psychics. I mean, talking about Sylvia Browne.
They want to know something.
Right. It's just like you said, like they want their dead family member to talk to them. They miss that person. They're grieving and they're looking for that.
They're preying on people who are in a very bad place a lot of times, or they're preying on people who are fearful of the future, or I mean, even if it's just I'm alone right now, I don't have anyone, and I want to think that there's someone in my future. Although, is it Sylvia Browne who would routinely tell people, "No, you're going to be alone for the rest of your life"?
Yeah, she said that a couple times.
That's awesome. I like that.
I mean, if you're gonna be a soulless individual, you might as well go all the way and tell people exactly the opposite of what they're coming to ask you about.
Well, maybe she's actually working for skepticism, and she wants these people to hope that her psychic predictions come out incorrectly.
Well, she's not working for anybody anymore. She is dead and buried.
So psychics are obviously crap. They've been proven time and time again to be just total crap. There's nothing there. There's a different topic that we haven't really discussed a whole lot.
If anyone in our audience is a psychic, the James Randi Educational Foundation has a $1 million prize if you can prove under clinical conditions that you actually have mind powers or supernatural powers of any kind. And that's been going on for decades and centuries. James Randi, it looks like he's been doing it for I feel bad now. But it's been going on for decades. No one has ever won that. I think I'm only aware of one person who's even tried. But anyway.
Only one person's tried?
Yeah. Sylvia Browne said she would, and she said, I'm going to do. she said that 10 years before she died, and then she's I'll do that, and then just never would.
Yeah, of course not. So what about acupuncture? Acupuncture, I know a lot of people who swear by it. I know that, and I've had some family members who actually took their dog to acupuncture. And according to them, it was super effective because the dog couldn't walk. He'd go to acupuncture, and then he'd be able to do normal stuff for a month, and then they would take him back to acupuncture once he stopped being able to walk.
That's interesting to me. I mean, it's anecdotal, so I don't put all that much faith in it.
Right.
But if that can be verified to be true, it would be really interesting to know if animals are subject to the placebo effect.
Right. I mean, I don't know how you could communicate that to the dog, but...
Well, being a crazy pet person myself, I mean, I think there's probably something to the placebo effect in animals, because what are they getting? Special attention, special time.
That's true.
All of that stuff.
Maybe so.
Let's talk about what this study was, because I think this ties into something I want to say about it too.
Sure.
So there was a recent study where a group of women who were suffering from menopause-like symptoms were divided into 2 groups. One group got traditional acupuncture, and the other got what they call sham acupuncture, where they randomly placed needles on the skin but did not insert them into the skin. So the individuals thought they were getting acupuncture, but actually were just getting random nonsense.
Right.
The result was both groups showed the same improvement on symptoms.
So I have a few things about that. First, I want to talk about the study design, which I think is really interesting. There was only 47 individuals used in this study. So let's round it up to 50 so we can all do math together.
Thank you.
We'll say, okay, there were 25 people in the sham acupuncture group and 25 people in the regular acupuncture group. And I didn't read the source study. I just read this news article. Right. But they're saying most of them in both groups reported having improvement. So, okay, most would be more than half.
Right.
Right? So we're saying 13 people out of 25 of each of these groups said, well, yeah, I feel a little better than I did feel before. The next thing that I want to point out is that it doesn't say, the interpretation is that both groups had equal results, but what the term that they use is that they did not have significantly different results, which actually means something different when you talk about scientific studies. So in a sample size so small of 50 people split into two groups, for them to be significantly different from a statistical point of view, that would have to be something like 5 people in one group had results, whereas 15 people in the other group had results, for it to be statistically significantly different.
And that didn't happen here.
And that didn't happen. So we're talking about, there's two things going on. First of all, I mean, we can talk about acupuncture and the placebo effect, and I think that's a really interesting topic, but the first thing that catches my eye as a skeptic and as a person that comes from a science background is this study is really not, I mean, I would want to see this study repeated 10, 20 times with 100 times more patients.
Right.
And with different conditions too.
Right, exactly. So that's just what I wanted to say about the reporting on this study being, and this happens in science reporting all the time, where people read a scientific article and then they talk about it in the New York Times or wherever, and
they draw somewhat inaccurate conclusions.
You can draw like really big dramatic conclusions from a statement such as the results were not significantly different.
Gotcha.
Right. So, and then about acupuncture and the placebo effect. Well, we all know that
of course,
we all know that the placebo effect is an actual. Yeah, it has actual results, and then if you guys want to talk some more about that.
So my thing is, if it does turn out that acupuncture is a result of the placebo effect, what are the ethics about charging people?
That's a good point.
Big rates for what basically could be accomplished for free at home, or very.
But it couldn't though.
Sure, could.
You don't get the full effect.
But if
you're not seeing an expert, you're not seeing a doctor or a professional.
Yeah, you can't get the placebo effect if you don't have the placebo.
Sure, you can. I mean, if
I can't come over to your house and stick you with a needle and have the same effect mentally.
Okay, so this is the other thing. Another recent study, and again, this one had, I think there were more people in the study than the acupuncture one, but still fewer. It was a study of people with irritable bowel syndrome.
The sugar pill study? I love this.
I do too. I just love what they did. So they took half of the group, and half the group got no treatment whatsoever. The other half got a placebo, and the doctors gave them a pill bottle and said, "This is a placebo. These are sugar pills. Please take these."
It even said placebo on the pill bottle label.
In big letters on the pill bottle, it says placebo. You cannot miss that you are, if you think you're in a real study, you think you're in the control group at this point. And they still showed, I don't want to say.
It was something like 47% had improved symptoms, whereas 25% of the people in the no treatment group had improvement.
But you said that you could get the effects of a placebo effect without a placebo, but you can't.
No. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you don't need it to be administered by a doctor necessarily.
Oh, no, yeah.
You could do it at home. You could have someone else, pretend to poke you with needles and.
But if you don't believe in it, then
I disagree.
No.
Yeah, if you.
I disagree.
No, that's what this study. That's what this study shows, is that potentially, and again, this is also a study that is very preliminary. It hasn't been duplicated.
Sure. But I think what Sarah's saying, if I may, is that I can't come to your house as Joe Schmo and stick you with a bunch of needles. Now, I'd like to do that just because I want to see you in pain. But I can't come to your house and do that, and you think that you're getting actual acupuncture.
No, it doesn't even require that.
No, I mean, if you want to extrapolate back to the acupuncture study, this thing with the IBS and the sugar pills and the placebo bottle would be the correlation would be in the acupuncture study if an acupuncturist told you, I'm giving you sham acupuncture.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't think that Joe Schmo can give you the acupuncture and you have the same result. I don't think
that's got a basis in anything, but you're right that this doesn't say that. But what I'm saying, though, is that, I called an acupuncture place today and asked them how much will it cost.
You're dedicated, my friend.
It is $70 to undergo acupuncture, an acupuncture treatment.
Did you ask them for a placebo acupuncture treatment?
How much would that cost?
I didn't. They actually did not want to tell me how much it cost. They said I could come in for a free consultation and talk to the doctor. And I was like, it's for a friend of mine. Can you just tell me how much it's going to cost? I'm thinking about paying for them. And so eventually they told me it was $70.
Now, what did you say that your friend needed treatment for? Because I would guess that it would.
They
be,
didn't ask me. I was going to say that it was fibromyalgia and for pain relief.
Oh, in that case, it's $500.
Right.
Well, I was thinking. I don't know if it costs more for certain things because they use more
Different
needles
chakra points or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I asked them for the average cost of an acupuncture treatment, and they didn't ask me what it was for. So
I
they were
think
eager
that
to
says
take my
something.
$70.
I think that says something that they didn't ask what it was for.
Well, and then I was also not talking to a doctor. I was talking to the receptionist, and I don't know if that was a medical professional or who.
One thing about irritable bowel, though, is that it's the symptoms of irritable bowel are strongly linked to anxiety.
Right.
So.
Okay, so anyway, $70 versus what a sugar pill would cost. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. $70 is not a whole lot of money for some of us, but for some people, it's a big deal. To have to undergo that. To be so desperate and in pain and feel like maybe this is the answer. And I know there are people out there that would have to make sacrifices, or their families would have to make sacrifices to undergo what could be pseudoscience BS that they could just get from swallowing a pill out of a bottle that says placebo in big giant letters.
Right. So the broader point here is that it's a question of ethics.
Yes.
If a treatment is shown to be at least or at most the beneficial effects of the placebo effect, is it then ethical for a professional to charge money to people who are in a vulnerable situation, who are looking for relief that they may not feel that
Right.
they can get otherwise?
And to me, the answer is no, because for the same reason why I reject these psychics, they are preying on people who are in a bad situation in their life. They're preying on people in pain who are ill and using that to profit, and that is not at all ethical in my view.
I agree.
But on the flip side, just to play the devil's advocate
Please do.
here, if you say, well, the placebo effect is just as effective as quote unquote real acupuncture, and people are getting relief, period, then does it really matter whether it's from a placebo effect or because of some, real medical efficacy that's going on?
I encouraged my grandmother to get acupuncture because she was having pain for a long, long time. And she was kind of at her wit's end, trying everything. She had, gone to medical doctors, had tons of treatments and procedures. And she said that she wanted to try it. And so I told her to do it. Because I just figured, I know it's pseudoscience, but if it made her
some relief.
If it made her feel better, if it gave her the placebo effect, I would be happy that happened to her, that she got something.
So
from
could
it,
you say in the absence of any alternative, medical alternative or some other treatment that's proven to work, maybe this is kind of last case scenario land that we're in here?
That's what it was for her. She kind of didn't have anything else, and I said, yeah, do it.
Did somebody in the chat room have a question?
Yeah, I asked a question of them. I'll let you know if I get an answer.
Okay.
Don't medical professionals have some sort of obligation to be truthful about the care they're giving their patients? Is that?
Yes. Do doctors do acupuncture?
The one I called today was an MD.
Really?
Yeah, he does other things in addition to acupuncture. I don't think you have to be an MD to do acupuncture. Actually, I know you don't, but this particular person was.
If I would go to him and ask him about the success rates, then yeah, he would have to be truthful with me.
But could he sell me on acupuncture knowing that this study exists, that there is no evidence that it is, in fact, effectual?
Well, there's no evidence that certain types of chemotherapy are effectual for certain types of cancers,
Right,
and doctors still
Yeah.
prescribe those all
I
the
think
time.
there's lots
I've
of
seen-
drugs out there.
But are they prescribing chemotherapy that have evidence that they are not effective?
There's
that would be
plenty
my-
of times where I've seen treatments that, like I mentioned with my grandmother, they're sort of last ditch resorts, and they have very low success rates, and they still do them.
I think there are a lot of drugs on the market, either now or in the past, that have had studies done both ways that show, yes, they're effective in some cases, but not in some cases.
Right.
And that doesn't stop them from being able to prescribe them then.
Right. So Leslie in the chat room was saying that she went to an acupuncturist who for $10. She said she felt some relief for that afternoon, but admits that it could have just been from taking time to relax, which is kind of the other thing that I wanted to to throw out there, which is, my daughter, when she was born 3 months premature. At her lowest weight, she was 1 pound 11 ounces.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so she was in the ICU, the NICU, for almost 3 months, and one of the things that they had us do was called kangaroo care, which was really interesting to me. I mean, basically, it's just the child is just wearing a diaper. And it's just skin-on-skin contact inside your shirt, and we would just spend hours like that. And the science behind that and the benefits to the child of just doing that are immense. They pushed that heavily, and we were in the best NICU in the Midwest. And so I wonder if some of the benefit of acupuncture couldn't just come from human contact and someone showing an interest and physical contact with another human being, and maybe that has something to do with it too.
Absolutely. There's studies out there that show that human contact, God, I don't remember the study, but it was for geriatric patients who the only time that they were ever touched was during medical procedures, and then scheduling just time for a massage or for getting just regular human contact in a non-medical procedural kind of way, and showing that their lifespans were increased and their quality of life was increased.
And there's also been studies, I believe, about people with active social lives versus people who are kind of isolated, and that your lifespan just from being a social person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they're all great points, and I think we could probably talk about this for quite a lot longer. But let's get on to some of our other points. But first, let me...
one last thought on that.
No.
Leslie in the chat room says we should just legalize it, and then that would...
Thank you, Leslie. I think that's her point on just about everything. So you're listening to Atheist Airwaves on Corpus Christi Community Radio. Corpus Christi Atheist meets every Sunday at 5:30, and this week is going to be... it's a surf club, right?
Yes.
So please visit ccatheist.com. You can see a listing of our events, and visit southtexascor.com to connect with any of our sister organizations. That's from Corpus to Brownsville. And we've got other things on Corpus Christi Community Radio, so don't forget to tune into those. And for just a second, I want to thank Adrian for the microphone.
Jump in with that.
Because he's,
So not only are we all sick, everybody but Luce, I think.
Hi, I'm healthy.
Let me fix that.
Yeah.
I drink a whole lot, and I don't get good sleep.
We were missing a microphone tonight, and Adrian came to our rescue. So thank you so much, Quizmaster Adrian.
Thank
you're
you.
the best.
Yes.
Thanks, Adrian.
So instead of acupuncture, let's talk about this Saudi guy. He's a blogger, and I have absolutely no idea what this is about. So please inform me.
So he's a blogger and a liberal activist. His name is Raif Badawi. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. But he was arrested and charged with apostasy, which is basically renouncing religion. And they are the judge in charge of his case is recommending that he be referred to a general court and actually executed.
Tried for apostasy, the punishment for which can be execution.
No. The judge actually said, "I recommend that you execute this man."
Really?
Yeah,
I missed that part.
That's what his wife said. So the judge hasn't made that public. The wife says that that's what happened in the courtroom.
I see.
Is he renouncing all religion or just certain religion?
Well, so no one has been able, they have not also made public what he did to be arrested and charged for this. The only thing that they know is that he's part of a group that he co-founded that called for a day of liberalism in Saudi Arabia on May 7th, 2012, that called for an end to religious domination of public life. So obviously that has to do with Islam because of where he lives.
Right.
He's being labeled as a heretic, and
Right.
they're asking to put him to death.
It boils down to a rejection of Sharia law.
Right. Right. So, I mean, just to be clear, everyone in this room and probably most of the people listening to this program would all be executed in Saudi Arabia. So don't go there.
It's probably good if some of us, like me, were executed.
Can it be televised?
Oh, I just wanted to stick you with needles.
I win.
The world would be a less pokey place without you, Jay.
It would be a less pokey place. That's true, it would be.
So, I have more to say about this later on, and I've said a lot about it in the past. You can cry me a river on your Christmas persecution. When you can go to any, there's no country on the planet where a Christian can go and be executed for being a Christian by the government. I mean, certainly persecution of Christians does happen from time to time here and there. But I don't want to hear about, I was actually told this week by a Christian that nothing bad ever happens to atheists, and, there's no discrimination whatsoever, and you guys are a bunch of whatever.
Did you verbally smack this person?
Yes, I abused him. Some others helped. But there are, I think, 7 or 9 other countries where you can be executed just for being an atheist in this world, and many others where you can be jailed.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. It's
Yeah.
Thankfully we live in a country where we can actually
We could have a
express
radio.
our lack
We
of-
could have a radio
Right.
show.
We don't have anybody busting down the door. Well,
Not yet.
not yet. So there's a church that did some really silly stuff. They were having, I guess it was like a toy drive. Is that right?
Yeah, they had a free toy shop for underprivileged families to come and bring their children to get a toy so that they could have a present for Christmas, which is a great idea.
Sure, whatever. Until you're not
Well, right.
religious.
Right. And so this family came with their 8-month-old baby, right, to find a toy for
And
the
they're-
kid.
and just for the record, they are Christian. This is a Christian family.
Right. Christian
Okay.
family comes to this Christian toy
It's the
event.
Bible Baptist Church in Chickasha, Oklahoma.
Right. And so even the authors of this article are not really clear about exactly what happened, but the church members tried to take the baby away from the mother, out of the mother's arms.
An
to-
8-month-old?
Yeah,
like
7
an
months.
infant.
7 month old.
To, I don't know, to bless it or to pray on it.
I was confused as to why. I was
something.
confused as to why they wanted to
Well,
touch
nobody
it.
knows.
Like, I
It's
don't
not
know.
even. It's
What
not
a
even
church,
clear
of course
in the article. So, and the mother said no.
Obviously, I think I'm trying to desperately pull up. It's Psalm 137:9. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them upon the rocks.
That's what was happening.
No way I would give my. That's
So-
biblical.
Yeah, and so basically they kicked this family out and didn't give them a toy and told them to go away because they wouldn't let them dash their baby on the rocks. They wouldn't let them do whatever they wanted to do, taking the baby away
They
from
couldn't
the mother.
participate because they would not hand the child over to someone who was
Well,
with the
exactly.
church.
And it was bad because they said, "Please give us your child," and she said, "No." The father said, "Our child doesn't like strangers.
Right.
We don't want to." And they said, "No, you need to, or you can't participate." But then when they said no again, they physically tried to take the baby from them. Just like,
I'm so
whoa!
confused.
I
It's
don't
just so
even-
mind-boggling to me.
I don't have children, but that makes me mad. I don't even like kids. That makes me mad.
Yeah, and you know that, I mean, I'm only assuming that these church members who are trying to wrestle this baby from its poor mother's arms, probably most of them were parents.
Right.
And so anybody, I don't have kids.
Well,
I haven't
there's
hung
some
out with kids
information
that
missing
much,
here.
but I know I'm not taking any baby out of any mama's arms ever.
Well, the church has apologized, so I don't think there's much information missing here. I just think,
Right.
there is no other context outside of cultism that makes this anything but creepy.
Right.
And I think it's just one of those things where,
Unless you're physical, it's like CPS.
right.
Unless you're
Then
CPS.
maybe you're wrestling babies on a daily basis.
Right. Even then, I'm not sure they
Wait a
wrestle
second.
them.
Baby wrestling? Is this a
No.
profession I can get into?
It's not
This
a
could be
thing,
a
Jay. Don't do
fundraiser.
it.
This could be a
I
fundraiser
like
for
this.
Corpus Christi Atheists.
We're going to wrestle some babies.
Now,
This is
the
awesome.
two babies wrestling each other?
No. Full-grown adults wrestling
No,
babies.
Jay's body slamming infants.
I don't like this idea.
for money.
I'll prepare the hospital.
Even better. I would do it for free.
It's biblical. Psalm 137:9. You can't criticize us. It's in the Bible.
We just need a really big rock.
Right.
So, okay, what's the punchline of the story though? Because this is
Well-
the heartwarming part.
So the Oklahoma Atheists stepped in. They heard about it because it was written up, and they immediately started a collection. And they were able to provide the family with lots of toys, dinner, and gift cards, and money, and basically saved their Christmas.
They saved Christmas.
Can I rent a baby then? I've had this idea many times. I really want to start a baby rental service, but in
Like
this instance,
you're providing babies for others to rent, or you're
Yes.
renting babies
yeah,
from other
I'm
people?
providing babies for others to rent.
Okay.
Why
He's
do
like
you
the
need a
baby,
baby?
dealer. Who wants to
And
rent
I
a baby?
didn't before, but now I need a baby because I want free food and stuff like that.
I see.
Gotcha. So, the other thing that really, yay, atheists. Thank you for Oklahoma Atheists for showing that we are good people.
Right.
But the pastor of the church posted a note to their Facebook page in response to the outrage because people even the Christians in Oklahoma were outraged by these people because that's sick.
It's crazy.
But he kind of did the same thing. I don't think we talked about what the Pope's message about challenging even atheists to be for world peace. I don't think we talked about that.
No.
Which is it's kind of like Hitler asking Stalin to stop invading stuff and to just chill out. So the pastor's message was really kind of the same thing. He said, quote, "I think everyone needs to know that we are certainly not a perfect church. That includes me." Yeah, that's. I think we can all agree on that much.
Who hasn't ripped a baby or two out of its mother's arms?
That's exactly what I'm saying. So he goes on to say, sometimes love is not perceived as being loving, even in the best of circumstances. Like when you're trying to pull a baby out of a mother's
Wow.
arms, it's a little easy to miss how that might be loving. Whether it is a Christian organization or an atheist organization, love is something we all fall short at various levels as a human race. Leave us out of it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, even I'm not trying to rip babies out of people's arms. Come on.
Well, after today, you might. But
Well, that's a different story. I haven't done it yet.
it's just the same thing that I think that the church in general has promoted this image of atheists as bad people, as immoral, and they just perpetuate it like this by saying, okay, we did something wrong, but atheists do the same thing. If you can find me one atheist group that has ripped babies out of mothers' arms, I will eat something awful.
Like a baby.
That's not
No, those are
awful.
yummy.
That's,
We did at one point have a joke where I was going to start a cookbook centered around babies, and somebody really got upset about that. One of our members did not like that. So even not all atheists are up on the baby eating.
Even like to eat babies.
oh yeah, there was a huge, like right after we have a secret society on Facebook. So if you ever come to one of our meetups, you could be part of the cool kids in the secret society. But one of the very first dust-ups in there was about whether it was funny to make jokes about eating babies. Like, that was out of control, stupid.
It was. It got bad. In any case, we should probably be shipped off to different countries anyway, right?
Sometimes
Yes.
I'd like to. There's some countries I would like to.
I totally agree.
If John Hagee is buying, I'll take a trip somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, Pastor John Hagee, he
Just up the road in San Antonio.
Yeah, he's
Mega
not far
church-
from us.
Mega church pastor.
So apparently, if at least in his eyes, if you're an atheist and you don't like Christmas, you can go ahead and leave the country and take your Walkman and stuff it into your ears.
Who uses a Walkman
That was
anymore?
exactly what I thought when I heard him say that. I was like, what?
I mean, he didn't even say Discman.
Excuse me. Yeah, he's obviously grasping at something. I don't know what he's grasping at exactly, but it's maybe
So
senility.
I pulled some of the audio if we want to try and listen to some of it.
Yeah, if we can do that, that'd be great.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot here. I'm gonna pause it a bit. There's so much dumb stuff in what he said. I mean, there's so much dumb stuff.
So this is, just to encapsulate here, we're talking about a San Antonio megachurch pastor who's railing against the quote-unquote war on Christmas.
So this is during his Christmas mass at his megachurch.
Oh.
And he is talking about how horrible humanists and atheists are and how persecuted Christians are in this country.
Wonderful.
So let's start with that.
Christmas is under attack in America. Department stores refuse to allow their sales personnel to greet customers with the words, Merry Christmas. Personally, I boycott stores that refuse to say Merry Christmas. It's the freedom of speech and it's the freedom of religion in the United States of America, and it's my belief. Government offices use the words Happy Holidays. The forced removal of nativity scenes from public places and even personal property is being demanded by the laws of this country.
All right, so that's the first time I have to stop him.
Can I just say, at least he kind of sounds like what I expect God to sound like?
Who talks like that?
Very
Come
echoey.
on. Yeah. So the first thing that perked up my ears was
Christmas.
She is a nationally known.
I started mashing buttons. I apologize. But I am unaware of a case where a nativity scene was asked to be brought down when it was on private property.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. I did a lot of research today looking for a case that happened. The only thing close that I could come to is that there was a gazebo built on private property, but it was built by a city, and then they put a nativity scene in the gazebo, which was then public property, and that was asked to be brought down. But you can have whatever you want on your front lawn as long as
To some degree.
not against homeowners association rules.
Yeah, I don't know what he's referring to when he says private property is being.
Well, he's not
Personally,
referring to anything.
Well, yeah.
you
He's referring to his own crazy
I
ranting.
mean, right, exactly. And I've heard so much about the war on Christmas this holiday season, and
We've talked about it a lot.
There is no war on Christmas, right? And these guys who rant and rave against it, and in the same breath, talking about the freedom of speech and the freedom of religion and the separation of church and state and the non-regulation of, religious expression. I mean, they're complete. I don't know if they're ignorant or if they're crazy or maybe a little bit of both.
Little from column A, little from column B.
But what they're really doing is kind of the same thing that we were talking about before, which is this preying on people who feel a need, having some sort of unfulfilled need for spirituality or for community or whatever, and then, screwing in their own kind of personal politics. Right.
Well, I think it's also because people kind of feel like they need something to fight for.
Right. They're creating a
And it's
crisis
giving them like
that
a-
doesn't exist.
It's this
Something to fight
persecution
for.
complex that I was
Yeah.
talking about earlier that they make up and nurture because it gets people involved, it gets people defensive, and it gets people angry. And angry people give you money.
They take action.
Yes.
We need to take a note from this.
So, breaking news: the war on Christmas has officially actually started in our chat room. They're going to make it a real thing.
Oh, really?
Apparently, yes. So there's a coup happening.
Awesome.
Well, the other thing is when he was talking about the department stores, people not being allowed to say Merry Christmas. I'm not sure which stores have that policy, if any.
Oh,
but
there are some that
regardless,
do.
I bet too those stores still have tons and tons of Christmas products and decorations.
Sure.
It's not like they are pretending Christmas isn't happening.
Well, I tell you, I worked in retail for a long time, and the store that I worked in, we made in the month of December more money during the Christmas season than we did for June, July, and August of
That's pretty
that
typical
year,
for retail.
right? And so, I mean, there's no retailer out there in the United States that's going to tell you we don't like Christmas.
Right.
What are they doing is recognizing that, well, maybe not every single person who shops in this store is a Christian. And guess what? We want their business too.
Right.
It's capitalism at its best.
And it's inclusiveness. So, I mean, it's humanism at its best too, which is not being ethnocentric or religion-centric. I don't know what the word for that would be, but... okay, so let me play the next bit of what he said and hold on to something because this one will make your head explode.
Christmas is under Merry Christmas. It's the freedom of
We'll edit this out.
holidays. The forced removal of nativity scenes from public places and even personal property is being demanded by the laws of this country.
Okay, here we go.
Humanists are now making the claim that Christmas was originally a pagan holiday. Hey, dummy, look at the word, Christmas.
Oh my God.
We all just face palmed.
It's like, well, no kidding, jerkface. You frickin' changed the name of the holiday when you stole it. I mean, that's the whole point,
There
right?
is so much historical evidence and factual evidence that it was. It was.
Well,
I mean, my head's exploding right now. I'm sure everybody's head is exploding right now, but just look at the word dummy. The name is Christmas.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, calling something does not make it so, right?
Right.
So let's talk
well,
about.
I mean, so even biblically, it's 100% certain that Jesus was not born in December or anywhere close to December.
Right.
Luke 2, verses 7 through 8 says, "And she gave birth to her firstborn, a son. She wrapped him in cloths and placed him in a manger because there was no guest room available for them. And there were shepherds living out in the fields nearby, keeping watch over their flocks at night." Shepherds did not live out in their fields during winter. That would be a really bad idea in the first century.
Right.
So obviously not true. Similarly, Luke 2 verses 1 through 4 says that they were Mary and Joseph were out registering in a Roman census, which has enough of its own problems as a factual statement, without the fact that these censuses never took place in winter, because that would be a sucky time to be on the road. Again, in the first century, pre-asphalt, pre-heated cars. So you stole it, dummy.
I don't see what's wrong with sharing it. I just don't understand why
Yeah.
they're so angry about it. Why can't we just share it? We can all have Christmas.
Because this is a Christian country founded. Well, actually, I'm
That works
stealing
out
his
really well
I'm
in the
stealing his
Temple
thunder
Mount.
because I think he says that later.
Yeah.
All right. So next bit.
One store owner said to me, "Well, Pastor, if I say Merry Christmas, I'm afraid of lawsuits." I responded, "New Testament Christians were fed to the lions in the Roman Colosseum, and they did not cower before tyrants and lost their lives rather than refuse to say Jesus is Lord."
Okay. First of all, I call total BS on his claim that
They didn't cower?
any business owner thinks that they're going to be sued if they say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous on its face. I think there's a 10 commandment in there somewhere about bearing false witness, but that's just, there's no way that's true, or he knows really stupid people.
Definitely.
I don't think there's
Or
any
he's
question
making it
as to
up.
the stupidity of the people he knows.
That's fair enough.
the company you keep, isn't that how that goes?
The other thing that I also wanted to say, just going back to this Christian persecution complex, he was talking about Christians being fed to the lions. There is zero evidence that ever took place. And there's actual evidence that it was made up and invented to do the kind of thing that he's doing, which is to create this persecution complex, get people fired up, get people passionate about things.
I like this idea that the passion of the war on Christmas, I think it's a good idea that we should start the war against Christmas. Well, we need freedom fighters, right? Freedom from religion.
There you go. Let's see the next bit here.
To all humanists and atheists listening to this telecast,
Yes.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness will not be in danger in any way if someone says Merry Christmas around you.
Agreed.
Yes, that is true. Similarly, though, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is not going to be in danger if someone prefers to say happy holidays to you,
Yes.
I mean, I fail to see how the logic that he's using can't trickle down to a single neuron in his brain and trigger some sort of understanding. I mean, it's his own argument, right?
Pretty much. So we have more to hear from this guy?
Unfortunately. One last bit.
Someone will argue, well, it's a Christian prayer. Yes, it is. And this is the United States of America that was founded by Christians on Christian principles according to the Word of God. And then the humanists argue, well, what about the atheist? And my response is, what about them? No one is asking you to be baptized in the side of a manger. No one is going to pass the collection plate if you go by a manger. If you pass a manger scene and someone is singing Joy to the World, you can take your Walkman and stuff it into your ears.
Okay, forget it. I don't know if I can make it through. I don't even know if I can make it to the point where he tells us all to get on an airplane and leave the country.
The guy he's something special. Bless his heart.
I can't take it.
I just get really tired of our country was founded on Christian.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
There's, again, tons and tons of actual factual historical documents that show otherwise. I wish they would read something occasionally. And that's coming from me.
The people saying that do not know what a deist is, ever. They don't know. And a deist is so far removed from these evangelical idiots.
Mm-hmm.
And
they're just trying to they're trying to make it okay for laws to be passed that are based on their religion. This is what they're doing. They're trying to make an excuse for that, and that's just makes me really angry.
Well, I always extrapolate to the super general, so my brain immediately goes to...
Is he an American general? It would be really good if we had a super general.
Team America, super general.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking about, this whole thing about let's create this persecution complex and let's, like you said, Sarah, figure out a way that we can pass laws from, that the one particular perspective. And it's always boils down to a struggle or a quest to gain power, right? Sure. And in the United States, it's political power through, religion. And, you see that with the Tea Party movement and a lot of this really kind of right-wing, ultra-conservative, neocon, whatnot, this whole, kind of Bible-thumping Christian crusading is nothing but another way to play for political power in the United States. And P.S. power equals money. Right. And there's no question that that's exactly what's going on here. So, let's have a mega church where we make up a fake war on Christmas in which we're being persecuted. We Christians are being persecuted by the mean, evil atheists to not be able to say Happy Holiday or Merry Christmas as a prayer to God or whatever. And that way, we're going to really just make everybody super agitated.
Yeah. Well, at one point, later on, and I apologize for not being able to listening to that guy anymore, but at one point he actually says, it's only 2%. There are more atheists than 2%. I'm sorry to tell you.
Oh, yeah.
You think so? Self-admitted?
Yes, there are.
Okay.
Yeah, we've talked shown several studies on the show.
Not many more, but there are more. And he says, it's time for the majority to, start making the rules again. It's like, not the way that's not the way this country works, buddy. We had enough of that through the first 200 years of this country.
That's because all the rich people make the rules, and they're definitely not in the majority in the United States.
So speaking of cutting off your dick.
Yeah. So, Mr. Rabbi.
This is another Pennsylvania story, too.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Do you know this guy?
I don't, but I did used to live right across the street from this temple.
Oh, sweet.
Yay.
Were there ever severed penises on the street?
No.
They reattached most of them, apparently.
Yeah.
So let's stop baffling our audience.
They
and
have
tell
to
them
ceremoniously burn those or something.
Oh, that's horrible. So a rabbi accidentally...
he got a little knife happy.
Yeah, he severed a baby's penis during a circumcision because they're totally trained to...
He's not a medical professional?
Right.
But he is a certified mohel by the American Board of Ritual Circumcision, which sounds like a great organization.
I have problems with the whole brie thing anyway for various reasons, but when you actually...
I think it's
breast.
breast. Breast cheese.
Oh.
It's breast.
Which happens if
Same
you don't
thing.
get circumcised.
Thank you, Richard Cheese. That's horrible.
That's the most horrible. I think that's the most horrible thing that's ever been said on this show.
That's challenging me.
Yeah.
You do realize that, right?
Thanks for having me, guys.
Luce has thrown down the gauntlet.
What, Rosa Parks wasn't enough?
No, I think that wins.
Okay, let's
like
talk
it.
about this because this
Anyway,
is just baffling.
So even worse, though, on his website, this guy specifically tells members of his congregation that a doctor's medical circumcision, usually performed in the hospital, is not considered valid according to Jewish law. So he basically
Really?
forbids his congregation from getting that procedure done in a hospital.
That's interesting because when I was in nursing school in Pittsburgh and I did my clinicals at the nursery, there were lots of Jewish patients and they all had their circumcision. Well, not all of them, but many of them did have their circumcisions in the hospital.
Well, this is this one particular
This one dude who likes to
one
cut
particular
on
rabbi
people.
guy who says, "Don't go to the hospital. Let me do it instead."
I'm way better at it, I promise.
I'll get rid of all of it.
So basically, this rabbi somehow had like an oops moment and completely removed this poor infant's penis. And then the child went through what, like
I don't know how long.
an
Multiple
8 hour
8 hours, yeah.
surgery. The kid had like 2 blood transfusions. He was in the hospital for a couple months. And we're talking about, I mean, from what I gathered and just kind of my own understanding of how the penis works, which, you know, I don't know.
We have
I
some
don't know.
experts in the room.
I mean, I just heard one time that there's like a lot of nerves and stuff
Yeah,
and
I've
various
heard
tubes
that.
and things that, you know,
A lot of blood vessels.
like
You
who
should
knows?
not be cutting into at
Yeah,
all.
basically, who knows if this poor kid's penis is ever going to be normally functional ever again.
It won't be. I think there's
Yeah.
a guarantee there.
I would venture to say no.
So that's really, it's just a huge travesty to me.
So this, I want to get us a little off track for just a second because the thing that I super loved about the article that I read about this was the total non sequitur of a quote from the doctor who helped reattach the infant's penis. I don't know if anyone else read this. So it's Dr. Joe Losey, and he said, quote, if your thumb was cut off and was put back on, that is pretty exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't understand that quote at all.
It's like it just dropped in the middle of the article and made no.
Yeah,
no
I mean,
textual
I'm
sense
trying
at
to
all.
think, were they asking the guy, maybe the guy was like really excited about
Oh, he's
doing
like-
this penis reattachment surgery.
I'm sure he was. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
And he's like, wow, I've only ever been able to do a finger and a thumb, and those have been super exciting. So you must imagine how I'm feeling about this.
The only thing I can think of after hearing that is now I see the infant in my mind with a thumb for a penis. That's all I can see in my head now.
I think it's sort of like, like when you're a medical professional and there's like a really difficult procedure and you nail it, you're like, yeah. That's probably
Is
how
that
he,
what they call-
yeah,
is that
that's
what
probably
they
how
call
he's
nailing
doing
Yeah, he
Nail
just
it
took a
back
bunch of
on.
nails, a little tiny hammer.
Oh.
So a couple of other facts that came out of this case before we get on to actually just talking about circumcision in general, because I definitely want to talk about that. David Llewellyn was also quoted. He's an attorney who handles circumcision cases. There's a guy who specializes in circumcision malpractice. That's crazy. And he handles both hospital and religious ceremony mishaps. He says that and I don't know that this is true. This is just the lawyer speaking. That the average pediatric urologist spends about 20% of their time repairing children who have been circumcised. Now, he was trying to minimize the frequency of these cases, but 20% is a lot of time, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's 1 out of 5.
Thank you.
Math girl.
And then didn't they say somewhere else that 2 out of every 500 circumcisions are basically botched?
Yes, and that's a
Are you
huge
talking about
amount.
all, including medical ones?
So that,
or just,
yes,
okay.
all of them. And that's from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And I did the math. That's about 4,000 cases a year.
Right.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
So, and then
So yeah,
and
it's bad.
these are serious results beyond the fact that you just had a part of your
penis removed.
You know,
You know, perhaps it's TMI, but I was one of those botched ones, and
Really?
yeah, and it's not awesome. It's really not. Now, it's not like I got it cut off, but it has lasting effects throughout your life. So, I mean, the whole circumcision thing in general.
Can you go more TMI? Like,
Do you really want me to? Because I have no problem.
You could probably beat the Brie thing if you.
Well, I did hear that Jay's penis does have lasting effects.
This is like I mean, I wish I hadn't been. Okay, I'm just going to take a break now. Why don't you tell us about your penis, Jay?
If I could stop laughing. No, I mean, and I'm sure this isn't the case for all.
No, but I am curious about what kinds of things
It's
people
just
have to deal with.
You have to deal with at least in my case, a lack of sensation. What I would say is probably 20 to 30% less a sensation than what someone else would have.
Matt, how do you
gauge that? How do you know
No,
what
I'm
other
just,
people...
it's a guess. I mean, I've had this discussion with several people. It's a total guess, but
I mean, can I poke you and can you feel this? Can you feel this?
He's like, no, 20 to 30% more, please.
Oh, that's a good
Did
scale.
you get
I
you
like
got
that.
together with your friends and you each rated your sexual encounters on a scale from 0 to 10?
that might have happened.
It's
You had less
science.
10s than your friends.
That might have happened. No,
Science.
no, and there's really no basis for that. But it's a total guess. But it's something. It's an obvious lack of sensation when you're with someone who well, what's going on here? Why not? Why doesn't that work?
So, I mean, can you tell? Are there like dead areas? Because I know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a larger portion of the penis has little to no sensation.
Okay. Yeah, I know my brother had his ear removed, not totally removed, but like they cut it off to do surgery, and he has areas that are.
Yeah,
totally
nerves
dead.
don't completely grow back. So I mean, I'm biased on the circumcision argument, obviously because of I've been one of those people who's I guess 4,000 people a year who has an issue with it.
Yeah.
Were you circumcised as an infant?
Yeah.
I had an ex who he and his
Oh, we're gonna have the penis show.
they were from an Asian country, and he and his older brother both were not circumcised, and so when they all came over here, his mom was like thought that they would fit in better if they got circumcised.
Because we all walk around with our penises hanging out, right?
So his older brother was 12 and he was 8, and
my
their mom
gosh.
made them get circumcised.
Did she keep the foreskin like my mom?
I don't believe so.
You were lying.
Not even.
You were lying about
Not
that.
even. Not
she
even.
still-
She currently
She still
has
has
it.
it.
Could
Why
they
didn't you bring
could
it?
they reattach it?
He was
Like
gonna
We were
show
so
it.
talking about baby skin gloves the other day.
We were talking about baby skin gloves.
Wow.
Isn't there like a really expensive? I think there's a really expensive facial cream that
It's not that expensive.
they use. With,
This is the worst episode ever.
they take like the foreskins of babies and they like grind it up and put it in the cream.
Pardon? They do what?
No, this is a real thing. This is a real thing. They take the foreskins of babies and they grind it up and they put it in like a moisturizer.
Where do
Oh
they
my
get them?
God.
From their
Synagogues?
rabbis.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's the fundraiser for the temple.
They were running low, so that guy just decided to take a whole.
That's horrible.
So taking it back to
Back to penises.
back to circumcision. I personally believe it should be illegal to perform a circumcision on a minor.
I agree.
Yay.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't know anybody who's going to want to have it done when they're. I mean, 8, much less 18.
There are
medical reasons sometimes to need one.
sure. I mean, if it's a medical necessity,
Yeah.
that's great. I
Do
mean,
you have too much cheese? Yeah, I can see that.
when my son was born, we already knew that we weren't going to have him circumcised. But when the doctor asked us if we wanted to, we directly asked him, so what do you think about it? And I was really, really happy because we were in Rolla, Missouri, which is down about 9,000 people in the middle of nowhere, a bunch of yahoos, a Walmart, and not much else.
I've been there. It's not a fun place to be.
No, it's not. I was really impressed. He said, there's no medical reason to do it. We'll do it if you want us to, but, there's no real medical benefit to it. There's a lot of outrage in the chat room right now. I just thought I'd mention it.
I can imagine there is.
Why?
Then please, what is the outrage?
Did we cross a line?
I think we've crossed several lines. There's some people who are converting because atheists are so horrible. But I don't. It's genital mutilation.
It is
Absolutely.
absolutely. And if like you were trying to allude to, if that's something you choose and you're of age to make that decision legally, okay, get after it. I mean, whatever you
Sure,
want to
like
do.
any other kind of body modification.
Right, but to do it to an infant that especially with such a high rate of failure or botching it, that's a really risky thing to do to children. That I mean, they're infants.
Well, so even if it's not quote unquote botched, it is still botched. I mean, you're still modifying something that is perfectly fine exactly the way it is, right?
There's no
And
medical reason.
There's no medical reason to do it, and in fact, there's several reasons not to do it. So, I mean,
Jay would
going back to the
certainly
very
like 20 to
first,
30% back.
Yes, I would.
I mean, going back to the very
Let me
first
tell you,
story.
it's awesome. It's so
You have no idea what you're missing, man.
it's that last 20 to 30% that really makes it great.
Christian, you're a horrible human being. I love you for it, but you're a horrible human being.
So we were talking about, is there an obligation for a medical professional to basically to not do harm, right? This is the Hippocratic Oath,
Sure,
right?
sure.
Do no harm. And it's shown that circumcision does harm, right? So what the F are we doing?
Yeah.
I kind of want to relive a joke from one of our previous shows because we talked about this previously, and I just loved the heck out of what Justin said because we did. I think Sara actually brought up the fact that there are studies that will show you that there are decreased risks of STDs, for example, among people who are. And Justin said, well, hopefully your infant is not engaging in sexual acts. Which I just love. I just want to relive that moment for just a minute.
Well, I mean, there's definitely one thing that's happened, and I've had this conversation many times with quite a few different people, and the one thing that I've seen is that there's a culture, for lack of a better term, around the care and feeding of an uncircumcised penis that's not common now.
Right.
I have friends who have a son who, they made the same decision that you and your wife made, and then they realized, well, we don't know anyone that's not circumcised, so we don't even know how to teach our son how to take care of this thing.
I am circumcised myself, and I have my son, and I was like, I just don't even know what's going on down here. No idea. I had to go do research on what was appropriate and not appropriate. It's not actually self-evident.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. And
in our culture.
And so it kind of does make sense, why the historical culture of circumcision came about in the first place, because it is like a breeding ground for all kinds of stuff, and if you live in a culture
Brie, no one likes brie.
No one likes brie, and well, I love brie, but not in that general area.
Whoa. We've got serious admission going on.
No, not that
She likes
kind.
it with crackers.
I like it. Whatever. Let's not even.
Let's keep away from that line.
Right.
For the rest of the show, let's stay on this side of the line.
Let's talk about how in cultures where there's no running water, in cultures where or in a time in our history where the slightest infection could kill you. Then it sort of does make sense, but we don't live in that culture now, and I think it's barbaric to do this.
I agree,
and I think we're doing our children a great disservice by.
And I just know so many people who have their sons' genitals mutilated because they want them to look like me. I'm just like, oh my god,
that's
I don't get
narcissistic
that.
and silly.
Yeah.
I want them to look like me.
Like,
As in, I want their penis to look like my penis.
So that when we're both, when he's 21, we can whip it out and
Play
No
sword
sword fighting. No sword fighting. No. And there's a whole host of different things that can become of it medically, and it's horrible stuff. It's bad stuff. So
Right.
Christian, let's talk about history. Do you have something historical for us today?
I do actually.
Let's hear about some history and science.
We're going to do This Week in History and Religion and Science.
Okay.
But it's a tricky twofer this week because you can't trust dirty atheists. So in 1516, probably not in January, but who knows, the Pope sent a commissioner to Germany to sell indulgences. Does everyone know what indulgences are?
Yeah.
I
Yes?
don't.
No? Okay. Indulgences were... so the church would collect money from people, and basically it was a get-out-of-purgatory-free card. You gave them money, and you got exempted from punishment in the afterlife of some degree, depending on how much money you were able to give them. Interestingly enough, Pope Benedict actually brought it back about 4 years ago.
I did not know that.
But I think it was 2009 he started selling them again. which is just ridiculous. So it was that practice that got Martin Luther so agitated that he wrote his work Disputation of Martin Luther on the Power and Efficacy of Indulgences, which later became known as the 95 Theses, a work that showed many had the same issues with the church 500 years ago that many do today, although I think Pope Francis is kind of mellowing on some of that stuff. His thesis number 86 asks, why does the Pope, whose wealth today is greater than the wealth of the richest Crassus, whatever the heck that is, build the Basilica of St. Peter with the money of poor believers rather than with his own money? Basically saying, hey, you're taking advantage of poor people so that you can have a nice big castle. So technically, it would take science and 2 years for this to properly start the Protestant Reformation, when in January of 1518, Friends of Luther's translated his work from Latin into German and mass-produced it using the printing press, which made the Protestant Reformation one of the first controversies to be helped along by printing machines.
I didn't know that part.
The printing press, Twitter of the 1800s.
Really slow Twitter. They probably were not doing 8 a sandwich stuff on the printing press. So this week in science history is actually a gigantic science fail, which I wanted to include because even when you fail at science, you will
win.
often learn something or achieve something of note, and that's certainly true of this one. On January 2nd, 1959, the Soviet Union launched Luna 1. This was the first of their series of rockets designed to reach the moon. They made an error in the burn time for the rocket, and they missed the moon by that much. They launched the craft, and it went straight by the moon and achieved a milestone in the human exploration of space. Luna 1 became the first man-made object to achieve escape velocity and enter its own orbit around the sun.
Nice.
It is still in orbit today between Earth and Mars, but
Really?
the Soviets have renamed the craft Meshtats, which is Russian for dream, but probably more of a nightmare for those engineers at the time.
Yeah.
I was hoping it meant oops.
Yeah, probably. That would be better. I don't know how to say oops in Russian, although I do speak Russian.
I think it's oops.
Oopsie.
Oopsie. Oopski.
That is this week in religious and science history.
That's a really cool science one. I like. We need to do more of the science fail.
Yeah, we
I
should.
like that. I really like that. Because religious fail, I mean, that's all we talk about. So we need to balance that out a bit.
I talked about a religious win, I think, once.
Once.
Just to be fair.
So do we want to talk about one more story before we wrap up?
Oh, sure, we're already over time. Let's do one more.
Let's do it. So in Chicago, I don't know why I was thinking you were Chicago. You're Philadelphia. Anyway, so some Christian activists.
Close.
Not really.
They have hockey teams, both of them.
Give him one. Let him have one per show.
You did such a. You're so pretty, Jay.
So the Christian activists have shown their love of atheists by covering up their atheist display and more or less berating them. I think it's a good way to put that.
Yeah.
And go ahead, Christian.
Yeah. Well, from I've got copious notes, of course.
This is why I turned to you.
All right. So the Freedom from Religion Foundation got a permit from the city of Chicago, and they erected a huge A. It's made out of red Christmas lights. It's the Scarlet Letter thing, and it's up next to the nativity scene and everything else in, I think, Dealey Plaza. Is that what is in Chicago?
Yeah, Daily Plaza, yeah.
Dealey Plaza. And then this Christian activist group went out there to protest against it, saying that it's horrible how I'll explain this to my kids, and covered it up with their own banner that said A is for angels.
Wow.
Yeah. I've got, does anyone want to hear audio from this?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the Christian guy, the leader of this Christian group, explaining why he must cover up the atheist display.
This A symbol that these atheists have somehow obtained a permit to display here at the Christmas market. I talked to a number of people about it. They don't quite understand what the A stands for. When I tell them that it's for atheists, they think it's in the wrong place at the wrong time. So what we've decided today is to do something positive and make the A stand for angels. And as Christians, we, especially Christmas time, we want to have a positive message of love. We want to pray for the atheists. We want to turn their A into an A for angels.
So, I mean, first of all, he said somehow the atheists managed to obtain a permit.
I missed that part.
By applying properly.
They can read.
It's the Constitution, buddy.
Some of them.
Well, I love how he says, like, we want to change the atheist sign into something positive, as if the atheist sign was negative.
Right.
Right.
Of course, it's against what he believes.
Right.
You know, you can think it's the wrong time and wrong place all you want, but, you know, kind of now you know how we feel, guy. You know, it's like, you know, we all want to get along. We can all either, you know, stay at home and B&J's Pizza Executive Surf Club and our churches, or we can have the garage sale. And apparently they want to have the garage sale.
Everybody seems to want the garage sale. And for those of you who are a little confused, the garage sale is where what's happened in, I think, Oklahoma, and there was another city, Detroit or something like that, where they've basically said, okay, well, if you can have...
Oklahoma City.
Oklahoma? If
Rhode Island, Oklahoma City, and Florida, they have the garage sale going on right now.
The garage sale is when you put up something Christian and religious in some sort of public fashion, especially on public ground like the courthouse, and somebody else comes along like, you know, the atheist or the Satanist or whatever, and they put up one right next to it. Well, all of a sudden you've got all of these things popping
Right.
up, and it looks like a garage sale on Sunday.
Right.
Right. And no one wants, well, apparently they do want that now, but I think once that becomes the norm, they're going to, and they have to crawl over these things to get to the courthouse, I think it'll go out of vogue and everyone will just respect separation of church and state.
We can hope, but
Yeah,
I don't
well-
think that's where it'll go.
Well, we'll see. Hold on, because it gets even worse. Let me, oh man, I think I just killed it too. I'm going to have to edit this out too.
Like what he said, how will I explain this to my children? How will I tell them that we can be kind and respectful of other people's beliefs?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to turn the atheist A into A for angels. He's trying to completely wipe out any, you know, semblance of another belief. That's exactly what he's trying to do.
Right. It's like when parents get mad if you accidentally spoil Santa Claus. I mean, not that I've ever spoiled Santa Claus
I
for their
have.
kids.
You just did.
But,
I have.
but you know, I mean, it's really, they protect that really.
Yeah, very vehemently.
Right. And so it's like, well, you know, if Santa Claus was real, we wouldn't all have to be telling a lie about it. Right. You know, and if there weren't other beliefs besides just Christianity, we wouldn't have to be shielding our children's eyes from them, you know, or you can just not
Right.
do that.
You know, the other thing that really struck me about this guy was, you know, he said that the atheists that put up this display were, that they put it up that in order to, he said, they're just saying they don't like Christianity. And he said that to me is hate speech. I don't know whether anyone else actually paused the video and read what the display said, but it's stupid. I mean, it doesn't even talk about Christianity. The text next to the giant A says, A is for atheist. Atheists, agnostics, secular humanists, and freethinkers are far more numerous than people realize. This display, provided by the Freedom from Religion Foundation, depicts the scarlet letter A symbol designed by the Richard Dawkins Foundation to promote its OUT campaign. Its purpose is to encourage the non-religious to come out of the closet, eradicate the negative stereotypes of non-believers, promote rational thinking to prevent atheism from being pushed into the shadows, ensure that our government remains completely neutral on the issue of religion versus non-religion, no garage sale please, and reach out to like-minded individuals to let them know they are not alone. Nearly 20% of the U.S. population now identify as non-religious, a percentage that continues to grow very rapidly. There is nothing that says anything about Christianity in there,
No.
or that qualifies as hate speech. And it's not surprising to me that a white dude doesn't know what hate speech is.
Good
A
point.
white Christian dude.
Zing.
So did you get your audio back?
I did, but I'm not going to try and search for it like I did with Hagee. I'm just going to let it go.
Okay, that works.
I do. So one of the things that that I was impressed by was that a Christian lady actually came to the atheist's defense. And so I do have her audio all queued up, and I'll play that. She's a little nutty, which makes me glad she wasn't an atheist, but she was in this clip, she's yelling at the white Christian guy, and there's an atheist behind her who ultimately says he's calling the cops.
Get Yeah, but you shouldn't be protesting the A. Protesting the A means that you are surrendering our freedom of speech and our Constitution.
Our freedom of speech.
You are limiting. No, I'm saying everybody. Everybody should have their opportunity to speak here. Whether it's an A, whether it's a menorah, whether it's a nativity. And standing in front of this is giving it more power than it deserves.
And we're going to hold this up.
I think you need to go back. I think you need to read the Constitution of this United States. You cannot abridge freedom of speech. I'm a Christian activist. I stand up for Christ, but I also respect that other faiths have their opportunity in the public square to be able to speak and recognize. That's why God gives me the glory, so that He
I think we're about ready to get started.
Maybe you can call the police and
in the public
Hey, Nick, can I ask you to help us?
cancel this demonstration.
There you go.
So I think she pretty much nailed it, which is just that, we have to have the garage sale. If we're going to have anything, we have to have the garage sale.
I respect that at least she's saying, hey, they deserve their little monument or whatever it is as well.
That's why God gives her the glory.
Yeah, that's the part where she lost me, but still.
That's fine. In fact, I don't really care that she said that because, her sentiment was coming from absolutely the right place.
Right, I agree. I wish.
What if I wanted some glory?
I think
she doesn't say God can't give you the glory to you.
That's true.
She's probably going to pray for you.
Well, I love how that guy he just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
She was like,
And that was another Christian guy that she was talking to?
That was the same guy.
Yeah, that was the guy that put it up.
Yeah, it was the same guy who we heard in the first clip.
The A for Angels guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And he's just totally dismissing everything that
he's
she's
not
saying.
thinking at all.
So
Yeah.
did he say let's call the police and
No, that was the
thing?
atheist guy. That was the atheist guy who said, I'm calling the police to have your demonstration stopped. Because they're sitting there. So just the last thing that crazy Christian guy said was, quote, what we're hoping that it's possible that if we as Christians show our love and support for our atheist brothers and sisters, that maybe they might be more tolerant toward Christian values, not only, at Christmas time, but the entire year as well. It's like he's saying this while his people are draping a banner over their display. It's like, who's lacking tolerance here, guy? Mm-hmm. Come on.
Yeah, it's the same thing we've talked about time and time again, is the tolerance of intolerance or intolerance of tolerance. It's rampant and kind of disgusting.
Yeah. Well, the lady said, we all have the right to free speech. You have to protect everybody's right to free speech. And then he says, "Oh, well, that's what I'm trying to do." It's like, no. You're trying to protect your free speech, but not everybody's free speech.
You're covering the free speech of the Freedom from Religion Foundation. I can't help but wonder how this same guy would react if a bunch of atheists were there with a Richard Dawkins banner draped over a nativity scene. Can you imagine the shrieking that would happen?
Yeah, it'd probably get violent.
Yeah, I'm sure it would get violent.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this guy would still not understand the double standard there.
No.
Right.
Some people just aren't going to. In any case.
I think that's it.
So thank you for listening to Atheist Airwaves on Corpus Christi Community Radio. We're obviously sponsored by Corpus Christi Atheists. Don't forget to check out ccatheist.com, and you'll get all of our upcoming events. If you forget, every Sunday we meet, we chat, we drink, and this is going to be a surf club weekend. Let's see here. We're going to say goodbye with our outro music, thanks to YGO, our local band.
And let me be the first to really apologize for this episode.
Let me be the first to not apologize for a second.
I'm sorry. Bye. See ya.
Bye.
Free speech.
Stuck behind him, trying to table the million with no idea ancestry.